To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
The president's promise. The commander-in-chief says those responsible for the loss of American life in Afghanistan will pay. We have analysis on what happens next. Mandate debate, the large showing at the State House for a bill involving vaccines, the testimony both inside and outside the chamber, and where the legislation stands today.
Starting this committee allowed me to funnel a lot of my negative energy into positive energy.
A nurse's mission to create change, the group where saving lives and social justice intersect. Face the State starts now.
We have some sense, like many of you do, what the families of these brave heroes are feeling today. You get this feeling like you're being sucked into a black hole in the middle of your chest. There's no way out.
President Biden at times emotional and at other times forceful. Hours after suicide bombs claimed the lives of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. He called the fallen troops heroes who died in the service of an historic airlift. And the commander-in-chief told those responsible they will pay. Thank you for joining us for Face the State this morning. I'm Tracy Townsend. We've been bringing you perspective from local experts and historians who study Afghanistan and foreign affairs. And 10 TV's Olivia Eugenio reports U.S. intelligence showed this could happen.
I spoke with two professors, one from Ohio University, the other from the University of Toledo, both saying an attack like this wasn't a surprise.
In a weird way, I think it was to be expected.
This was expected. This was not a matter of if, but when.
Dr. M. Joel Voss from University of Toledo and Professor Nuket Sandal, the chair of Ohio University's Political Science Department, say they saw this coming. But Sandal says this shifts the conversation. With the attack coming from ISIS-K, an offshoot of the ISIS group, now we're talking about fighting among different jihadi organizations.
This is a group that was established 6 years ago. It is an ISIS branch. And its goals were to both attack U.S. and allied forces and to undermine Taliban credibility and governance.
But how does this affect Afghan people, especially those trying to escape? Dr. Voss says he believes this will slow down evacuations in the region.
Having a terrorist attack occur obviously is an added fear, but I think you'll still see these individuals try to escape. If anything, right, this is even more reason to try to escape.
But while the evacuations continue,
but there will be many who want to leave, but who cannot be evacuated. So for these people, of course, watching their loved ones die as a result of ISIS attacks or living under the strict rule of Taliban will be the reality.
Again, the Taliban and the president agreed to the August 31st deadline for evacuating Afghan civilians. As of now, both professors I spoke with believe that evacuations will continue until that date. Back to you.
Here now is a look at the Kabul International Airport and where those blasts took place. There are essentially two sides to the airport, the military side and the civilian side. The explosions happened on the civilian side. It's called the Abbey Gate. And according to the Department of Defense, it's one of 3 areas that screened more than 104,000 people so far. There's also a hotel nearby called the Baron Hotel. People, including Americans, have been lining up trying to get out of that country after the Taliban takeover. We're hearing from Ohio lawmakers on Capitol Hill about the situation in Afghanistan. Senator Sherrod Brown tweeted, "Our hearts are heavy for the victims of the terror attack in Kabul, U.S. service members performing a dangerous mission, and innocent Afghans fleeing danger." And Senator Rob Portman tweeted, "As reports of U.S. casualties come in from the cowardly terrorist attacks in Kabul, we keep the brave service members and their families in our prayers." COVID-19 cases are climbing in our state. This was the 2-week moving average in Ohio as of Thursday. More than 5,000 cases. Administrators at Ohio Health announced that they will pause elective surgeries that require an overnight stay. The hospital system says this will free up staff and hospital capacity. We spoke with John Palmer from the Ohio Hospital Association. He says hospitals in other states are seeing wait lists for the intensive care unit, and he says it's critical to avoid that situation here.
Those are situations you don't want to be in. Those are life-threatening type situations that would have serious outcomes. The understanding that it's not so much a bed capacity concern versus a staffing concern.
As of late last week, leaders at Nationwide Children's Hospital said they were busy but hadn't had to postpone or delay care. Leaders at Mount Carmel and Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center also told us they do not have plans to pause elective surgeries. A round of applause greeted State Representative Jennifer Gross inside the State House. She's the sponsor of House Bill 248, which is aimed at blocking vaccine mandates from being implemented at businesses. Hospitals would not be allowed to require workers to get vaccinated either. Health experts maintain the vaccine is the most safe and effective way to fight the virus. Ohio's legislative leaders ultimately hit the brakes on that bill for now, but for hours this week, they heard testimony from people in support of and in opposition to it.
Consider how House Bill 248 will make our current situation even worse, and I'm asking you, please do not pass it. Thank you.
And private businesses need to stop putting draconian measures on your constituents, us, because they're private corporations.
Franklin County Commissioner Kevin Boyce spoke on behalf of the commissioners, and he had this exchange with the bill's sponsor.
This bill, simply put, is dangerous. It flies in the face of common sense and science. It isn't so much about personal liberty as much as failing to acknowledge the consequences of individual actions, even when those actions endanger all of us.
I wanted to know, had you heard about the study that came out in the Lancet Journal on August 10th that says the transmission of SARS-CoV-2 Delta variant among healthcare workers who've been vaccinated? Some science isn't conspiracy, but it actually is science, and so people read that. And Ohioans read that. How do you answer those types of scientific questions, since this is the Lancet, a very well-known journal in those of us who are medical?
Chairman Lips, Ranking Member Russo, Representative Gross, I think that we should follow the science, and I think that they've been very clear about what our action should be, and I hope that when the actual folks who are involved in the scientific research, like the physician that was just testifying, I hope you ask them that question, because I think they're equipped to respond, because that's what they're following.
Supporters of this bill surrounded the State House with signs. Most were urging lawmakers to pass it. Some say they are not against the vaccine, but they told 10 TV's Kevin Landers the decision should be an individual choice.
They came to raise their voices for medical freedom.
You should have the decision to put drugs in your body if you want. It should not be mandated on any level.
Your body, you choose. They came to question the science behind the COVID-19 vaccine, which the FDA says are not experimental.
And I'm not going to inject myself with something that they're doing basically experiments with us.
They came to fight against what they say is government intrusion into their personal lives.
What's the next step? You can't have a Pepsi or a Coke anymore because it's bad for your health.
This protest rally in favor of HB 248, known as the Vaccine Choice and Anti-Discrimination Act, drew people from across Ohio.
It's about the freedom of choice.
I can't even believe that we have to fight this.
Our body, our choice.
They believe the government shouldn't mandate a vaccine, nor should employers fire those who choose not to get the shot.
It's heartbreaking to see all these other people that are going to be this affected by it.
Inside the State House, supporters of HB 248 gave a standing ovation to State Representative Jennifer Gross, who championed the bill.
I believe I'm on the right side of this issue.
Gross, who says she got COVID, believes the size of the protest shows how passionate people are for her bill, and says if HB 248 or some form of it doesn't pass, she predicts first responders could walk off the job if vaccines are mandated.
If we do not act and protect our health care from the front end, they helped us, and if we don't help them now, they're going to walk.
The Ohio Chamber of Commerce is against this legislation. We spoke with the president of the chamber, former 15th District Congressman Steve Stivers.
It's not about vaccines here. It's about employment at will and eroding employers' ability to decide the terms of employment in their business. And in fact, that's a slip towards socialism that, we should all be a little scared about.
COVID-19 and the classroom. What's being done to keep your children safe? 10 Investigates' Bennett Haberly has the answer coming up.
Columbus is playing host to the world's largest LGBTQ softball tournament, but organizers say it is more than a game. Hi there, I'm Angela Ann. Monday on Wake Up CBUS, time to play ball for the biggest event since the pandemic started.
How much federal funding did your student's school receive during the pandemic? A new data analysis from the Associated Press aims to answer that question. The review of federal data found that the median total per district in Ohio is $2.7 million, and the median spending per student is over $3,200. Columbus City Schools received the most of any district, followed by Cleveland and Cincinnati. Many schools use the money to hire more teachers and counselors, purchase equipment, and offer summer programs. As COVID-19 cases rise, the state's largest school district returned to class. Misinformation is spreading just like the virus itself, leaving school districts and health departments facing pushback in a public health crisis. Here's Chief Investigative Reporter Bennett Haberly.
This week, placards carried messages about choice and freedom. These voices outside the State House
your body, you choose,
carried messages in support of a bill that would block schools, businesses, and other institutions from requiring COVID vaccinations.
We want it to be our choice.
Similar pushback against mask mandates popped up at this Worthington School Board meeting, which ultimately passed a mask requirement for K through 12.
I've weighed the pros and cons from my research and determined that it is detrimental to his learning and well-being to wear a mask.
And at last week's school board meeting in Gahanna, several parents echoed opposition to mask mandates. Misinformation was also present. At least 2 parents repeated false claims about the efficacy of the PCR COVID test. All of it has led public health officials like Dr. Mashika Roberts to say things like this.
The science says this virus is very contagious. The science says we can reduce the spread of this virus by wearing face coverings or masks. And the science says that we can reduce the spread of this virus, we can reduce illness, and we can reduce death by getting vaccinated.
10 Investigates found that as school has resumed in Ohio, school districts in at least 42 counties are reporting active COVID cases among students and staff. In the Columbus area, a dozen school districts have reported cases, leaving hundreds of children and teachers in quarantine.
What's sort of the landscape that we're looking at? Do you anticipate that we will see more of those circumstances pop up in the next weeks ahead?
I definitely think we're going to see more cases. We're going to see more individuals getting quarantined, and we're going to see this impact the classroom and schools as well as businesses.
We want our students to be safe.
The head of the state's largest school district says they're prepared to return to virtual learning should it be necessary. Right now, they're requiring masks and encouraging vaccinations, even as concern and contention lingers.
I thought it would be different, but it was better than I thought it was. It was exciting.
The cases is just too high. I just think they shouldn't have brought all the kids back together like this.
In Columbus, Bennett Haberly, 10 TV News.
This week, several Central Ohio colleges started to mandate the COVID-19 vaccine. That includes The Ohio State University and Otterbein University. At the same time, a small Ohio college is seeing a spike in COVID-19 cases, and that means protocols are changing fast. 10 TV's Brittany Bailey takes us to Cedarville University.
The students have been back here on campus for a little more than 2 weeks, and the COVID-19 case numbers among students have been steadily climbing since then, now up to nearly 300.
We hope these plans that we've implemented are going to pay off and reduce the spread and bring us back to a more normal and manageable level.
Right now, Cedarville is managing by creating even more isolation space for students. That's on top of another space that already is full.
This wave will pass, and our commitment is to be on campus in person. We believe that's the best way to do discipleship.
When students returned to campus, there were no protocols in place, no vaccine requirement, no mask mandates.
Our initiative was to empower the students to make sound decisions that's best in their health in their best interests.
But that meant initially holding chapel in a space that can hold roughly 3,500 people at one time, almost the entire student population.
Honestly, when I came in the beginning, it was like 4,000 kids in one place, no mask, in a chapel. I was like, wow, these kids are obviously going to go higher. But now, once I feel like the mask is coming back, I feel like kind of comfortable, with cases maybe going down.
Is it fair to say that people were not making those quote unquote sound decisions that you wanted them to make when they came back to campus?
I don't know if that's the reason here. I think the Delta variant is so powerful, it swept through here quickly.
At last count, there were 281 positive cases, more than 7% of the student population. So now masks are required indoors, and as of Friday, students can choose to take classes online. The plan extends through at least September 7th.
Do we really think that 10 or 11 days of this protocol is going to fix everything?
That's a good question. I'm not a medical expert.
We should point out that these case numbers are only for students and do not include faculty and staff numbers. We know that means the numbers are higher on campus because the vice president herself is sick and the spokesman we interviewed on Zoom is in quarantine. Reporting in Cedarville, Brittany Bailey, 10 TV News.
We checked in with a few other area universities. As of late last week, Otterbein had 15 positive cases since August 1st. Out of those, only 2 were among the 1,000 students living on campus. Ohio Dominican also had only 2 active cases among its 1,500 students. And Kenyon College was reporting 4 positive cases, 2 students and 2 employees. We should note all 3 of these schools have mask policies, and Kenyon students must be vaccinated. Some significant changes about healthcare assistance will take effect in a few months for the Ohio Public Employees Retirement System. We recently got a question from a viewer who's wondering if health benefits are going away altogether. 10 TV's Lindsay Mills verifies.
Viewer Faye Haynes recently wrote to us asking, is it true that Ohio Public Employees Retirement System plans to discontinue health benefits to retirees? Our source is Tanya Brown, the Obers Director of Member Operations. She says beginning January 2022, they are moving to a reimbursement model called a health reimbursement arrangement.
The way this works is the participant will pay up front for premiums and other qualified expenses that they can then be reimbursed with from their allowance. We will deposit that allowance each month into their HRA account.
This was a major change the Obers board approved in 2020. The reason the healthcare fund left unchanged risked being insolvent by 2030, and it would take 4 years to fund it again. According to Obers' website, it has become increasingly expensive to offer this coverage as costs have risen at alarming rates nationally. Further, we have more people retiring now and fewer public workers contributing to the system. So is Obers discontinuing its health benefits?
No. Obers is not discontinuing our healthcare program. We are changing our delivery model for our pre-Medicare retirees.
So we can verify, no, the healthcare program is not being discontinued. However, the burden is shifting and the funding help is shrinking. Brown says the biggest thing pre-Medicare retirees need to do during open enrollment is to opt in to the HRA program.
After they do that, they can then explore new medical plans by contacting Via Benefits, which is our pre-Medicare connector. The connector is an unbiased resource that would help the retirees understand different funding options, how to navigate the individual and family market, and then also enroll into a new plan.
To help with that transition, Obers is providing a one-time deposit of $1,200 into the new HRA account. Have something you'd like us to verify? Send us an email to verify@10tv.com. With your Verify, I'm Lindsay Mills.
This change directly impacts more than 22,000 pre-Medicare retirees and potentially the dependents of more than 200,000 retirees. The state of Ohio launched a new website so Ohioans can learn about redistricting. It's called redistricting.ohio.gov. You're about to learn about who is on the commission as well as what that commission does. The group includes House Speaker Bob Cupp, Senator Vernon Sykes, Senate President Matt Huffman, House Minority Leader Amelia Sykes, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, Auditor Keith Faber, and Secretary of State Frank LaRose. The commission redraws the district maps every 10 years. This is the first time the newly configured commission will redraw these districts under new criteria approved by Ohioans in 2015. We have posted a link to all of this information at 10tv.com/facethestate. You know, during tough times, we lean on one another. Coming up, how this group of nurses find support while saving lives during the pandemic. Welcome back to Face the State. Columbus City leaders say there's a crisis in our community. It's not the crime rate, but the birth and death rate in Franklin County. The Greater Columbus Infant Mortality Task Force reports that 3 families lose a baby every week in Franklin County. 150 infants a year die, and African American babies are dying at twice the rate of white babies. Startling statistics that demand a candid conversation and action.
Society is judged by how it handles its most vulnerable folks. If we can't, as a community, wrap our arms around babies and ensure that they have the best trajectory possible for getting to the age of 1 and beyond, you know, you gotta question what we're really focusing on. The most vulnerable folks in our society are our young folk. And again, I think the collaboration here gives us a really unique opportunity to address some of the...
It was my pleasure to moderate the panel discussion with Maureen Stapleton, the Executive Director of Celebrate One, Christine Sander from Ohio Better Birth Outcomes, and Franklin County Commissioner Erica Crawley at the Columbus Metropolitan Club this past week. They are laser focused on a strategic plan to lower the infant mortality rate, close the racial disparity gap in health and medical care, and increase diversity and equity in the medical community. A group of nearly 20 nurses at OSU's Wexner Medical Center has teamed up to form a new diversity committee. Beth Mengsu is an ICU nurse who worked to form this committee. For more than a year, she says she's been working on the front lines of the pandemic and has also been deeply impacted by national events of social injustice. She says the events of the last year and a half have really weighed heavy, and she was motivated to create this committee to channel feelings of burnout and hurt into a positive force.
Being a Black nurse, being a Black woman, being in a COVID ICU, being in a grad program full-time, it was just a lot.
The goal is to educate others on diversity and inclusion and to offer a space for talking about social injustice. They're beginning to plan outreach efforts in the Columbus community and beyond. Their first event will be volunteering at the United Methodist Free Store in September. We thank you all for joining us here today. We will see you back here next Sunday for another edition of Face the State. Take care.